Let me go ahead and introduce our hosts. John Hovell is Managing Director of Strategical LLC and a KMI instructor for the CKM and Knowledge Transfer Certification programs. Rosalie Larkin, who is a CKM grad, is also Head of Knowledge Management and Competence Development at Nokia Cloud Network Services. So thank you both for joining us today and leading us on this path, and we're excited to get started.
Delighted to be here today with John and the KMI and with all of the participants. So I'm Rose Larkin, and in March of this year, I became the head of knowledge management and competence development for Nokia's Cloud and Network Services organization, a global organization of more than 16,000 people, of which 70% are technical engineers. Prior to that, for 3 years, I led the buildup of the first knowledge management function in Nokia for a global team of 3,600 technical professionals and project managers. Based on the results of that program, the function was expanded this year. We have 4 certified knowledge managers from KMI, and I am happy to, and we have 17 technical architects and a number of other functions on the team. Since our inception, we've issued over 5,000 internal technical certifications. We've completed over 500 knowledge sharing sessions this year, 40% more than last year. And I just want to say a big thanks for the invite and also for training me, to John and KMI for training me in knowledge management.
I love it, Rose. Thank you. And yeah, let's have some fun. This is meant to be kind of a lighthearted. If anybody's ever seen any of those like top 10 countdowns on TV or the radio for, you know, music or movies or anything, this is kind of a fun little thing we've been doing at KMI for a little while, like Eric said. So for those that got a chance to vote, thank you for voting for this topic. Yeah, and I always find it's kind of a fun partnership. So in case this is your first one, we'll follow the same process we've done before, which is Rose and I have both semi-privately come up with our top 5 list separately of KM strategies. So I'll share my number 5 and Rose's number 5 and 4, 4, 3, 3 until we get to our top 1. And to me, honestly, kind of the whole idea is to make it a little bit thought-provoking, to see what sparks up in your mind, to see if you agree or disagree, or what would be in your top 5. So we'll offer ours for the first, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 minutes, give or take, no specific time. And then we'll do 1 or 2 rounds of small group breakouts so that everybody on this call can sort of learn and chat with each other. What is your top 5 knowledge management strategies? So if that makes sense, Rose, are we ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. So let me open up. We do have a PowerPoint. Okay. Rose, what is your number 5 top KM strategy?
Communications, and I'll add strategic communications. For us, we want to inspire and inform people and leaders at all levels to engage in knowledge management. So to inspire them, we need to communicate what's in it for them, what's available, how can they advance their careers. We also need to inform them. How do they engage in KM? Where do you find certifications? How do you join a community? What communities are available? Plus, we need to figure out the most effective methods for communication to reach all members of the organization without creating information overload.
Nice.
John, back to you.
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, like basically every other top 5, I love how broad our topics are. So we've done top 5 knowledge management technologies, top 5 knowledge management failures, top 5 knowledge management organizations, stuff like that. So I wasn't quite sure exactly what type of strategy people were looking for, but I'll tell you the first thing that came to mind, PDO, Petroleum Development Oman. I've been very fortunate to see many, many different KM strategies. I don't know if I could share exactly their whole strategy with you on screen, but you can Google and look up PDO, Petroleum Development Oman, one of my favorite knowledge management strategies that I've ever seen on a single page. If I were to describe it really quickly, off the top of my head, there's 4 categories across the top of their strategic KM document, and then there's 3 areas of enablers underneath those categories. Let me see what I can remember. The enablers were technology is an enabler of the entire KM program. Everyone on their KM team was supposed to understand how to do blogs, how to do knowledge-based articles, how to run SharePoint, how to do the Atlassian suite, how to do ServiceNow, how to do some of the most popular KM tools as an enabler of KM. They also had a culture enabler where it was all about the psychology side of KM, being able to work with emotions, being able to work with human beings as an enabler to their KM project. They had a third enabler, I can't remember it off the top of my head, and then they had 4 categories. I can't quite remember all 4 of those either. One is expertise location, one was collaboration, one was content management, and one was knowledge retention. I can remember all 4 of them. So that was some of the pieces of their KM strategy, and it just happens to stand out for me as one example for you of what KM can look like. My number 5. Rose, how about your number 4?
Okay, so number 4 is the knowledge management platform and infrastructure. We need to make it easy and natural for people to share and reuse knowledge. And make it natural as a part of their job. So we have many groups of engineers across the globe using different internal systems. And some of those systems have KM capabilities in them. And so we chose to implement a federated system connecting those systems together to provide one-stop shopping for finding information. And 18 months ago, we launched the Nokia Knowledge Center for this function that ties together information from more than 15 internal systems and automates KM workflows and reporting. While the first search is usually on the system that the people use daily as part of doing their job, I think it's a really good step to have the second search be on the Nokia Knowledge Center.
Nice one. Love it. Thanks, Rose. Try number 4 over here. Patrick Lamb and the Straits Knowledge team based in Singapore. This to me is more of a strategic planning approach than a specific KM strategy itself. And I love it. I've got the decks of cards right here in front of me. If you haven't seen it before, it's basically a physical map with 5 different sections to it. And then each of the sections comes with a deck of cards. And one of the cards says KM diagnostic cards, 75 signals of knowledge and information management opportunities in organizations. So if you're struggling with what is KM or what does KM do or deliver, here's a taxonomy that's been based in this organization's experience and their own taxonomy of what are KM challenges. And then a whole separate deck of cards is the KM method cards. The subtitle is 80 approaches, methods, and tools for knowledge managers. So again, I tried to rack my brain about, I wonder what everybody means by KM strategy. And I wasn't sure if it was specific strategies or details of a strategy or an approach to get to a strategy. And I happen to love whatever your strategy is going to be in KM, that strategic planning canvas might be a tool to help you get there. Rose, back to you, number 3.
Okay, so another part of our KM strategy, a big part, a pillar, is what I'll call carrot and gamification. I specifically changed that from carrot and stick to carrot and gamification, and I'll explain why. So first of all, let me start with the easy and fun part, which is the carrot, which are rewards and recognition. So in 2020, we started with quarterly WOW awards, and these WOW awards were given to people every quarter. They were monetary awards, and they were given to those people who produced exceptional results, WOW, while using new ways of working, WOW, WOW, which included things like collaboration, knowledge sharing, contributing to others' learning and development. We are now, as an expanded function, we are now launching a Nokia Masters Awards program, with quarterly awards for master professors and semi-annual awards for master collaborators. These are monetary awards. They're publicized internally, back to the importance of the comms strategy, and they will come with a letter of recognition to the senior VP level, which helps them with career progression. Not a guarantee, but a factor that can help them in progressing their career because they're showing that they're having a broader reach across the entire globe. Now let me talk about KPIs and gamification. So we had referred to and set KPIs, and to some extent, some of our leaders used those as a really hard stick and turned people off from learning. And what I recently realized is that, or what we recently realized is that really the effectiveness of those KPIs was really in setting up friendly competition among the leadership teams, because none of the leadership teams wanted to be the lowest achiever against a target. So we're going to change this and this year to have a friendly competition. We're also introducing some friendly competition along with the Master Collaborators program to have some friendly competition and name like the most effective community of practice. And this will create an awareness and hopefully some more intrinsic engagement. So back to you, John.
Awards and recognition can't beat public praise, right? That's powerful. Okay, so I put some thought into this one too. Again, this is not exactly a specific KM direction. I will get to some of those too. But if I think about KM strategy, I just have to keep coming back to what I hope you've all heard, people, process, technology. Just looking through that lens of when you look at your current KM strategy, or you're forming a KM strategy, or you're maturing a KM strategy, try that lens one more time. How much people, time, and effort are you really putting into your KM strategy? How much process improvement and how much software or whatever technology or tools you're looking at? How much of that? What is sort of the balance? And what is it, a third each, or is it purposefully 60% technology? What does it look like in your strategy? And then as also, I hope, a reminder for everybody, SECI, socialization, externalization, combination, internalization. If I'm sort of overly direct with you, most every KM strategy I see is very focused on the right side of that SECI, the externalization and the combination. A lot of taking tacit embodied knowledge and writing it down. How do I get it out of people's heads and write it down? And the combination task, which is like Google. How do I take written information, and make it even better written information, which is great stuff. It's in SECI, externalization and combination. Please, please don't forget or don't underestimate socialization, which is tacit to tacit, embodied knowledge being shared with embodied knowledge, and internalization, time to reflect, time to process and integrate that tacit knowledge into your body. So easily underestimated or overlooked or not budgeted as part of a KM strategy. That's my 3. Rose, what's your 2?
Cultural transformation. So when we started this journey in 2019, we were in an environment of Nokia, right? A company over 100 years old, in an industry, telecommunications, which was known for its hierarchical organization and silos, and coming from a long history where knowledge was power. So getting people, encouraging people who are overworked to change behaviors is really important. And so we've had to inspire them for sharing. We've had to get them to see the benefit for them when they share and when they get something in return. And really following a change management program and looking at this as not something like, well, gee, I can go out and buy a knowledge management tool and I can implement it and voila, I'm done. It's much more to do than that. And, we have made progress, but we have a ways to go. And sometimes the change management is needed most with middle management. For example, my team in country X is too busy to share their findings with the team in country Y. I have my results to produce. And so my view is, don't look at this as like a simple 1 year, buy a tool once and done. Make sure that it's a multi-year effort and look at it with a long lens, because even after 3 years, we have a long ways to go.
I think even after 30 years of KM existing, we still have a long still so much more. And maybe this builds on it. Thank you, Rose. Number 2 for me, and this was really close to number 1, buy-in. Working with resistance, assuming that most all of you work in a hierarchy or have a client that's in a hierarchical organization. I just find that that's far and away still the most common organizational structure. Even if you have a flat or a teal or a holacracy or a meritocracy or some other networked different organizational structure, I still think you need in your KM strategy to think about where is the resistance, where is the buy-in, where is tacit knowledge getting stuck, and what's causing it to get stuck, where is explicit knowledge getting stuck in the most critical path inside your organization. So a couple of things about buy-in at all levels of organization. So again, assuming hierarchy, senior level buy-in, middle manager buy-in, individual contributor buy-in, as well as customer, client, stakeholder buy-in. It's easy to forget that 4th category of who's contributing to your KM activities. And then I snuck it in here. Sometimes I do this and cheat and put 2 things in one. I think change management is similar but different. So many partner fields with KM. Change management gets to my number 2. I think there, I don't know how to say this politely, so I'll just say it how it's popping up for me. I think there's a bit of a human nature where knowledge is power. And I'm going to hoard my knowledge. If I use knowledge management jargon, I'm going to hold on to my knowledge because it's my power. I almost want to say, therefore, there's quite an effort to work with how do we shift it from knowledge is power to knowledge shared is power. If it's even power, that's the key player in the moment. Rose, are we ready for a drum roll? I wish we had music to play a drum roll. What is your number 1 KM strategy?
Executive sponsorship. When we started the journey in Nokia, we had the strong support of a senior vice president of the 3,600 member organization that we were developing a program for. And he supported the budget, he supported the communications, he supported the formation of the KPIs, and he made sure that it was not forgotten, that it was a priority. I can't tell you how many times when things get tough in the company, the last thing that people want to talk about is KM. It's the last thing on every agenda. And so while we often were the last point on the agenda for his staff meetings and for all hands calls, we were always given the time. And now we have that support and are fortunate to have the support of the president of the Cloud and Network Services business group and his leadership team. And let me tell you, we have a big job ahead of us.
Executive sponsorship for KM, critical for KM strategy. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this, and I think I'm comfortable, with my number 1. This was my take on, if we're thinking about KM strategy, not from inside an organization, not from what's an example of something we do in KM, what's the best KM deliverable you've ever seen, not that kind of strategy. I'm now thinking about knowledge management as a discipline. Maybe created in the mid-90s, maybe it was created thousands of years ago, but let's pretend like it's 20 or 30 years old to make it easy. I wonder if we're not due for the 4th era of knowledge management. If Nancy Dixon's document is familiar with everybody, or maybe somebody could throw it in the chat. The first era of knowledge management being information management, the second era of knowledge management being experience management, and the third era of knowledge management being idea management, collective intelligence. Maybe the fourth era is closer to vaccines for a pandemic, climate change, systemic racism, stuff that goes beyond a single organization. Maybe that's the fourth era. I'm offering to you maybe conversational leadership is the fourth era of knowledge management, meaning these three questions, to way oversimplify it for time reasons. Question number one in conversational leadership is, what is the conversation that we need to be having right now? I think what project management is trying to do is have the right conversation. I think what KM is trying to do is have the right conversation. I think what D&I is trying to do is have the right conversation. I think what organization development, change management, what is the conversation we need to have right now? Thank you, Carlos, for the link. Question number one, what's the conversation we need to be having right now? Question number two, in what way do we need to have that conversation? I hope you hear some KM in that question. Do we need to have it face-to-face? Do we need to have it synchronous? Do we need to have it asynchronous? Do we need to have a liberating structure or some kind of approach to this conversation? In what way? Do we need to be happy, sad, angry? All the different ways to have a conversation. Let's have some shared clarity on how to have easy and difficult conversations. And then the third one that we've just added in the past couple of years in conversational leadership is, in what ways is this conversation right now forming community? And I'm guessing you might pick up on, we're working from a bit of an assumption right now that we're doing quite a bit of harm to communities. Not KM, but the world is potentially harming communities. So how could the right conversations in the right way at the right time support community? So there's our top 5, and then the little bit of prep we did, Rose, without sort of sharing our top 5 too much, you and I were trying to just make sense of, hey, what do you think a top 5 would look like? What are you including in your top 5? And I think context number 1 was kind of your big question, right? Mm-hmm. Anything you'd add to that?
Yes. No, I just want to make one comment. I will tell you that I saw some things in the chat just now. The PDO example is in the KMI, the Certified Knowledge Manager course material. And I want to say that when we were developing our strategy, our KM strategy, that was one of the things that we carefully looked at. So, I would say that the things that I'm talking about are things that you will also find in PDO. And there are probably some differences because I did this a couple of years ago. So, but I was thinking about the things to make KM successful in the context of the organization.
Yep. And then what I was trying to do, and this is what we kind of chatted about, it's a lot of text on screen, so apologies for that, but I tried to bold the 3 points, plus give you a bunch of other KM strategies in case that's what you came to this webinar for. To me, the big question was, are you looking for specific strategic KM directions, like KM's about innovation, KM's about decision-making, maybe over here at the end, KM is about making scarce expertise widely available. KM is about ensuring unique and critical knowledge is not lost during retirement. Were you looking for that, like specific KM direction? Just notice if that's what you think when you think of KM strategy. Or were you looking for like the whole KM department or function? What does it do? Like create an environment for knowledge to flow, or Stan Garfield's circle, share, innovate, reuse, collaborate, learn, or USAID has that CLA strategy, collaborate, learn, adapt. So I love those. I just didn't know what did everybody mean by top 5. So there's 2 specific KM directions, or sort of elevator pitch or purpose of your KM department, or like my maybe number 1 and number 2, were you talking about KM as a field? What's the strategy for KM as a discipline? Where are we headed? And that's where I tried to give conversational leadership or cross organizations, or I won't be surprised if many of you are thinking, hey, what about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, machine learning, automation, all the tech side of KM? Because of course, we're making tremendous advances there. And then I also listed a bunch of partner fields: learning and development, change management, D&I, all of those types of things. So with that, I think we might be ready to do our breakouts. Rose, what do you think?
I think we are.
Let's do it. I'm gonna put, in case anybody needs to drop now, would be a great time. We've got about 40 people, so I think I'm gonna go with 9 breakout rooms, which should be 4 or 5 people per room. And let's do, it's perfect timing, 30 past the hour. Let's do about 12 minutes in this first breakout. And the prompt question for you, I'll put in chat, is what are your top 5 KM strategies? That's the question that you might discuss in your breakout. Here we go. See you back in 12 minutes. Thank you. All right. I think we're all back. I'll give your machine a second to transition you back into the main room. We've got about 10, 15 minutes left for a wide open group conversation. Over to you. Did anybody have any aha moments in their breakouts, or any questions, or what's going through your mind now?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say for our breakout, I think we kind of coalesced around the ideas of interaction. So the importance of interaction with knowledge management and knowledge sharing, the need for communities of practice, which also speaks to a larger piece around governance, to have solid governance so that you have you can sustain a knowledge management initiative over time, as well as the need for KPIs, to see that you're making progress and to have tools to measure those KPIs.
And?
Yeah, so I was talking to my partners in that breakup room. Can we use blockchain technology to manage the distributed knowledge? Now, knowledge workers or peoples are all over the world, and they are communicating with each other. And blockchain technology has a proven technology, at least for the last 7-8 years, in distributed transactions or distributed sharing the information which is distributed and validation and a lot of things. So don't know how to use it, but that is the one thing we talked about, that one, use of blockchain technology. And second thing we spoke quite in length was, how can we capture the knowledge of baby boomers, especially working in the large organization for last 30, 40 years, and they're retiring, and they have a huge knowledge. And I was talking to one of the baby boomers who retired recently from HP, Hewlett Packard, and he was telling that, Anand, this is always a pain point that young generations at Hewlett Packard, they were not listening my advice. Forget about that. Employees working at the HP, even my son, who is 25 years old, I know that I can fix his problems, but he does not listen to me. So how can we improve the communication or some sort of things to capture the knowledge of two extreme end, baby boomers on one side, young generation on the millennial on the other side, and bring them together, basically keep all the knowledge at one knowledge management tool? I don't know. We don't have the answer of that one.
You know, John, on the this brings up to mind just what you said about the coming together of diversity and inclusion and knowledge management and conversational leadership, right? So, and I think about, I mean, I know that you're from DC, but I know that the story of the Washington Senators and their success in winning the World Series a couple of years ago was the fact that they had a young team, but they had older team members, so they had that diversity, and they found a way to make it work. So that might be an interesting case study.
Yeah. Rooting for our local nationals, thanks. Yeah, and I put it in chat there too. Communities of practice, blockchain. Anand, we would tend to call that knowledge transfer, or personally, I like to call it knowledge retention, holding on to unique and critical knowledge. And Holly, I see in chat, what are good offboarding questions, like a top 5? Oh, that could be a fun future top 5, or we could just do it right now, Holly. Top 5 offboarding questions to capture knowledge and good points of contact for those leaving. Yeah, good one. What else? Still got a few minutes.
This is Amgad Saleh. Actually, there's a couple of points actually like to emphasize. One is actually, relating the knowledge to the areas and the fields where, for example, in the CNS, in our case, the company is working on, kind of like pull a lot of, contributors. You can talk about, knowledge management in general, and you may not get a lot of attention from everybody if you're talking about, 20,000 people or 16,000 people. But a lot of people likes to contribute and get into this kind of, I would say, contribution mode, if I may say, when that knowledge kind of attached to something that they do. For example, we are working on, cloud deployments, cloud, developments, and all kind of things around that area. So you will attract a lot of people when the subjects or the areas that you are addressing kind of tie to what they're doing in a daily basis. I know lots of, very, very good, technical people in our company. They're very smart and they like to contribute to specific technical things when you challenge them for something that's coming in. So that's one point when it comes to the actual contents of the knowledge. The other part has to do with the reward, if I may say, right? Previously, we had some sort of like a technical academy in, certain stage of the company. And that technical academy had lots of like, Bell Labs, fellows and others. And one part of that, there was I would say, offering competitions within actually what the company, the objectives of the company or whatever the business unit. And they actually worked in groups and they were able to come up with certain solutions. And those solutions actually were kind of judged by some university professors. Okay, so there has to be some sort of, and that's actually tied to Rose mentioned about, the kind of award part. And also the other part in that, there was some looseness when it comes to their contribution with, their direct management, because one of the points mentioned earlier that, that the management team, I'm talking about the middle management, would say, oh, I have, certain things to deliver, right? I have time. I cannot do that. I cannot do that. So having, some sort of assigned or giving them some time officially that they can innovate with, that will be a good boost for their contribution.
Oh, God. Eugene?
Yeah, I would just add if we have 2 minutes. What we highlighted is to understand the knowledge audit, to perform knowledge audit and specifically mapping, because we should know who are the critical ones and who knows what and who knows whom. And having this special graph, we could easily, it would be much easier for us to identify whom should we kept and whom should we be focusing on to offboard more specifically. Because if we have someone with 40 years of experience going out and this person is the critical one in our network, based on the network analysis, then we definitely should spend maybe more efforts on this onboarding. Again, content creation and management, for sure, just as the main pillar, and on and offboarding, being both equally important, because where many companies, they have focused on onboarding, but not that much companies have at least any efforts in offboarding. And that's really important, especially now when we have generations of retiring and we have newcomers and we have to merge and blend them, their experience and their knowledge. So that's it from our group.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you, Eugene. What do you think, Rose? Time for one more comment, probably?
Yep.
Agreeing with Martin in chat. It's funny, Martin, I asked a question and I didn't even agree with my own question, but I put it out there anyway. KPIs to help reduce support and cost by 10%. Okay, so yeah, yeah, we haven't talked much about measurement and metrics, so that could be part of a KM strategy. Some organizations really call for that.
We actually did a little bit of that. So it wasn't as direct as the reducing support costs by 10%. That would be an ultimate goal. But one of the things that we did is we actually tied the opening of JIRA tickets that were found to be incorrectly opened because no correction was needed to the people who were getting certified and participating. So we found that in the certification part of our KM program, that the people who got certified were very unlikely to open an inappropriate JIRA ticket to our research and development teams. And I just looked at this statistic this morning when I was on a call, and on one of our products, there were like 400 tickets opened this year, and only two of them were opened by someone who had achieved a certification. So that's not as direct of a cost, although I think if we started there and we went further, we could probably connect it to a cost. But that's the nirvana, that's the ultimate, in my opinion, to really get things, to really embed KM into an organization long term.
What we used to talk about at APQC, American Productivity and Quality Center, it was embedding knowledge management into the workflow or into operations, into sort of daily practice. However we can do that, yeah. All right, a huge thank you, Rose. Eugene, I saw you unmute. One more comment, Eugene? Go ahead.
Yeah, just maybe final one about the workflows, because we've been doing kind of research on what software supports which functionality and the life cycle parts of knowledge management. And one of the things we understood that workflow and actually business process management or automation tools, they also support knowledge management because the process actually is this knowledge being converted into a process, right? So, and if it's executable and it, for example, is based on the lessons learned and it eliminates errors by being updated as a process, so then it's again a piece of knowledge management strategy, at least it could be. So PPM and workflows also could be part of that. That's a side comment.
I love it. Thanks, Eugene. I remember for a while there was, I guess still to this day, there was specific software that focused on process mapping and just looking at it that way and having software directly for it. So thank you, Rose, for being here, and thank you, KMI, for the opportunity, and thank you all for being here. Hope it was helpful and or interesting and or inspiring. How about you, Rose? Final words?
Thank you, John, and thank you, KMI. You helped me and the team from Nokia on our journey on KM starting 3 years ago. So thank you very much. Pleasure to see you again. Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.